Take this. So we will get started. So welcome everybody. My name is Lana Burrell. I'm the owner of LB Endurance, and we are the kind of title sponsor for Heart of the Lion Triathlon, and as well as 3 other races in the LB Endurance Open Water Race Series that is put on by Personal Best Racing. So some of you are probably very familiar with it. I don't know if you all have done Personal Best Racing events before, but we sponsored the Spirit of Kona, the Heart of the Warrior. Now we're doing Heart of the Lion, and then we have K-Town on the River will be our 4th race in this series this year. So the race date is Sunday, July 9th, and it is on a Sunday. So don't forget that. Sometimes we mess that up when we put that in our calendars. I'm guilty of doing that. So where is it located? It is at the Whitestone Inn, which is in Kingston, Tennessee. It's really from the center of Knoxville. It's about a 50-minute drive. About 25 minutes is on highway, and the other 25 minutes is going to be on local roads. I will say, if you are driving out there in the morning, it is very dark, and it's kind of some twisty turny roads. They're really nice condition, like very newly resurfaced and well maintained, but it is kind of a twisty turny course. So if you are driving out there in the morning from the highway, be prepared to kind of take your time with it. And it is kind of an area, it's very rural, so there are animals and whatnot. So, but just take it easy. You can't like speed in on 2 wheels. It won't work out well for you. But it's really pretty close to Knoxville. The Whitestone Inn is the host. They were offering rooms for participants only, and they are sold out. So the inn is full of other athletes. So this is which is good news. But there are, if you do need hotel, within about 20 to 25 minutes from Whitestone, Lenore City, Loudon, and Kingston all have hotels. And of course, you could be on the west end of Knoxville and be, 30 to 35 minutes away if you needed that. So like I said, this is the 3rd year of the race. It was established in 2021, and the format of the race really has not changed. There's always been an Olympic, a sprint, and also the Sup-er-Yak. This is the site of the Whitestone 30K, which is put on by the Knoxville Track Club, and that's part of the winter training series leading up to the Knoxville Marathon every year. And I don't know how long that race has been going on, but I would say it's been at least 15 years that that's been in place. And that's in March, end of February, early March every year. So this race, they wanted to do this because it's just a beautiful venue, and Whitestone Inn was, really into it and wanted to host an event. So here we are. It is a smaller race. So the Olympic distance usually attracts about 20 to 30 athletes. The sprint, somewhere around 50 to 60. And the Sup-er-Yak has always been about 15 or 20 people. So there are still people that have not signed up that have said they're going to. So registration is definitely still open. That's at personalbestracing.com. Here you see, this is the finish line from last year, is in this photo. So as you can see, it is a very pretty venue. There's not a lot of concrete on this one, lots of green. Oh, I should say, yep, it's Heart of the Lion. So like I said, we have the triathlon events, swim, bike, run, there's sprint and Olympic, there's age group, obviously Athena, Clydesdale, and relays. You can do 2 or 3 people. There's also an aquabike for the Olympics. So if you just want to swim and bike and be done. And then the Sup-er-Yak is using either a stand-up paddleboard or a kayak, and then finishing with a 10-kilometer trail run. And you can do that as a relay. So one person can paddle, one person can run. It is not possible to participate in multiple events though. So you can either do the sprint or the Olympic or the Sup-er-Yak. The race distances, so for the sprint, we're looking at 800 meters or a half-mile swim, 11-mile bike, and a 5K run. The Olympic distance is 1,500 meters swim, 25-mile bike, and it's actually 26. And then the run is actually 10K, not 5K. That's a typo on my part here. And then the Sup-er-Yak is a 3-mile paddle followed by 10K, and it's a trail run. The sprint and Olympic are all done on the road. for the bike and the run. And like I said, the Sup-er-Yak, the run is all pretty much off-road. So here's our venue again. It is at the Whitestone Inn. If you've ever pulled it up on Google Maps, you do know that you can see why it's such a distance. So here we are at the 40-75 highway split, if you're familiar with this area. And basically the typical routing that you'll get from either Apple or Google Maps will have you go down 75, past the North City exits to the Loudon exit, and then you'll take a right and follow 72. And when you get off 72, you basically drive in to Whitestone from there and kind of twisty-turny along 72. And this is, I think, Painted Rock Road is part of this. So cell service in this area can be really spotty. So, you know, if you're going to load up your map and your phone, do it before you leave. Because once you get off the highway here, once you get down 72 a little bit, the GPS starts to disappear. So you may have some troubles getting out. You may be able to get on the Wi-Fi at Whitestone though, if you need to. But just know, it is kind of remote, which kind of makes it, I think, what makes the race unique and fun. So here's another shot of the race venue. So looking at a little satellite image. So when you come in, there are two entrances. This is the second entrance here off Paint Rock Road. There's another one that's further back on the road that comes up in front of the different part of the lodge. When you come in, it goes up a hill for this first P for parking. So there's a lot of parking there. And then up this other hill to the top here, this is the schoolhouse at the top. There's some more parking up in this area. And then there's kind of a pathway. It's a little hard to see in the trees. It kind of weaves its way around here to the back. And over here where the T is, that's the transition. There's a little building you can see just above it. That is the Rose Cottage. And this is kind of signifying where the finish line will be under these trees next to transition. And you can also see on the venue where the swim start and finish are, and then also for the Sup-er-Yak where they start and finish their paddle is there. So we'll talk about this, but there's definitely some distance when you leave the water to getting back to transition. But I hope this could get a little bit of scale, and it's hard to see from this, but it is definitely all on a hill. Very a lot of texture, a lot of terrain out here. So quickly, the schedule in this matches what is on the website. So race day schedule, you can do early packet pickup on Saturday night. So if you're staying at the Whitestone Inn or you're in the area and you want to pick up early, you can go in 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. They should be over at the Rose Cottage. And then on race day, though, you can do your packet pickup at 5:30. When transition opens, there will be a briefing for athletes at the swim start ahead of the sprint, and that she might do a little quick review before the Olympic athletes as well, but most of what she says for the sprint will apply to the Olympic. Excuse me. At 8 o'clock, that's when the Sup-er-Yak will start. Finish line opens at 8:30. Sprint awards will start at 9:30. Olympics at 10:30. The bike course does cut off at 11 o'clock. You can preview this course at any time. You can drive the bike and the run very easily. And you can even drive onto their property, especially if you're like, hey, I'm just checking out the race site. And if you wanted to park there and ride your bike from the property, that would be okay as well. Especially where I put the P's on the map, you can park in those lots. After the awards, there's always a nice party at the finish line right there by transition. There are bathrooms on site. In the past, they have not had porta potties, but there are bathrooms in the various buildings. So sometimes you just need to ask. I didn't get the details on where those were this time around. Okay. All right. Close this guy. Okay. So transition area. Just an FYI, bring insect repellent. There's a lot of mosquitoes, especially in the morning. And I would recommend a headlamp, even though the sunlight will be coming in there probably about 6:15, 6:30, kind of towards the end of transition setup. So I would recommend a headlamp, or, you know, if you don't want to carry your cell phone around and use its flashlight battery, you'll probably want it because there's just not a lot of light out there. And this will be a week after the full moon, so you're not going to get much light from that if that's shining in the sky. Last year it was very cloudy, so it was very dark in the morning. It is a first come, first serve transition area. There's not any numbering on the racks for this. Hang your bike on the rail by your saddle and try to alternate the bikes. So one bike goes to the left, one bike to the right, and so on. Front wheel goes on the ground. Place your items on the ground to the right of your front wheel. And of course, you can use a towel or a mat under your items. Just be, if you're not experienced for this, just go for the smaller towel. Don't do the full beach towel, but maybe fold the beach towel into quarters. The transition area is on grass. So just keep in mind, if you put anything down, it's probably going to be damp from overnight dew, or if it rains, it'll be wet. So just be aware of that you're going to be on probably wet grass in the morning. If you have any bags, buckets, boxes, pumps, or whatever, just put them over by the fence and not next to your bike, just so you don't want to interfere with other people. So this location, just to kind of give you an idea, the body of water that you'll be swimming in is called the Huffine Branch, or Huffin. And the direction the water flows, you can sort of see the water flow, and there's the venue here, the Whitestone Inn, is where you'll be swimming. So depending on the direction of the swim course, and last year we did a counterclockwise start here, and we went out and around and came back in. So coming back in, we were going a little bit against the flow. It's not strong current, but it's enough that we noticed. And even the first year, the swim location was different in the first year. So if you did the race in year one, it's different now. So, but on that course, the way that was set up, we noticed the current even more. The water's pretty shallow in this area. You can see how wide it is, and you can see these little flecks of green. There's a shoals here, which is kind of like a sandbar that's very close to the surface. So it is a very shallow area, which means the water can move a little more quickly and appear to have more current than it really does. This is also kind of a wide open area, so you will get any little breeze will translate into some little tiny chop on the water, a little bit of texture there. So if you're used to only swimming in a pool and really flat water, you might start getting a little water up in your face, might change how you turn your head out of the water and get your breath. So just kind of be aware. And also both years, the first year it was foggy, the second year it was very cloudy. I do recall that sighting was kind of challenging. My goggles always seem to fog out here, so just be aware of that. But that just gives you a little idea of where this swim is. This is not a common place for people to swim. There are a lot of fishermen out there though. This is a view from land looking at the swim. So this is what the start looks like. She's like, all right, everybody go out and get in the water. So you'll be standing in water about waist deep, and it's kind of a soft bottom. It's not sandy. It's not really mucky, but it's just kind of like soft soil, soft dirt. Not rocky though. There really wasn't anything to step in, and that was dangerous for your feet. The sprint is going to be an 800-meter course. So there will be buoys out there, probably 3 or 4. And you can see in this image, maybe a little bit, you can see the little buoys way out. You'll go out and around those and then come back in on a single loop. So water temperatures the last 2 years were right around 77, 78 degrees. So right at wetsuit legal. So it's really going to come down to the temperature they take that day to know if it's going to be wetsuit legal or not, if you decide that you want to wear one. Again, expect a little bit of wind, a little bit of current there coming at you. And you can see how it looks like a big lake, but it actually really is a stream, as they call it. The Olympic, it will be the same course as the sprint, but instead of doing one loop, you would go around twice without exiting the water in between the 2 loops. So they'll have the buoys arranged in a way that can happen. If you've done either K-10 this year, if you did Spirit of Kona or you did Heart of the Warrior, it's kind of a similar format for the swim course layout. Again, in water start, and again. And this, I want to show this picture. This is kind of how you step up out of the water. So you're stepping up into a grassy area. It's probably about a foot and a half up, depending on where you sort of choose to put your feet. The grass was clean. There really wasn't anything there. Obviously, there's wildlife in the area, but nothing that bothered us. I didn't hear of anybody getting stung or bit or anything like that. But it's not like a manicured beach or anything. So just be ready to roll with it. Any questions about the swim so far? Anybody got anything? Okay, if you think of something later, that's fine. The next part is you actually have to get back to the transition area. So it is a run up a hill. It's about 400 meters or about a quarter mile. The first 100 meters is across this bit of grass, and there's like an old kind of a farm road, an old field road where there's tracks and there's some dirt in it, but it's not really a road. Then you'll get onto a paved driveway that turns into, again, more paved driveway. It looks like a greenway if it was anywhere else. So you had about 300 meters of that. You can run on the grass next to that paved areas, or if you want to put shoes at the swim exit, that's totally cool. You can do that and pull on shoes to run up there. Last year, I did not use shoes. Maybe I did. I don't remember, but I do remember running on the grass for sure. But anyway, it is safe to do that, either option. So however you feel like you're going to be fastest and safest, it's totally up to you, but there's definitely space to drop shoes down at the bottom. And then again, that's about where transition is.
How steep is it up out of that water?
It's really, it'd be hard to put a number on it, but it's not, I'm trying to think of something around here that would be like that. It's similar to, have you ever done Fall Creek Falls?
No.
No. Okay, it's not as steep as Knowlton, I can say that. It's a slope. I mean, it's rising. It's probably, it's a couple percent, but it's just kind of a gentle rise, especially as you come up, this first part of the path. And then kind of as you get closer to transition, then it kind of picked up a little bit steeper, but it wasn't like you were pulling yourself up a hill. It was just kind of a long incline. It feels really long. It feels longer than it was, like it really is. And like, I think last year, I mean, most people were doing it in anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes. So just know that also the transition mat is where your swim time will end when you go back in. So if you're interested in getting just your actual in-water time and you're wearing a device, I would lap your device as you finish your swim and then run up. And then you'll be able to see your true swim time versus what the race timing will show, because the race timing won't show your transition starting until you get up there. So a little misleading on some of the data that you see from it. But the fact that it's paved did make it a lot easier to get up. Okay, so the bike course. So the sprint course is 11.2 miles. It's out and back. To leave, and you'll know this, when you drive in the morning and you drive up and park, notice I say drive up and park, you will be biking back down that way and biking back up that way. And you will also run down that way and run back up that way. So at the beginning and the end of each bike and run, you've got some elevation to take care of. So going out, it's fun. Might ride your brakes a little bit when you get out. Once you turn onto the road and down this first corner, I'll talk about this in a second, that kind of smooths out. And then from there, and you can see from the profile, not exactly sure where they started this. It doesn't really show the drops, but you can see it just kind of rolls along. The middle is very flat. It's just kind of very gentle rises and falls. And the sprint is really a pretty fast bike ride. And there's really, on that course, it's hard to see, but there's one turn, a second turn, and then this little part here where you cross 72, that's another set of turns. And then you've got this U-turn at the end, and then you go back in. But they had volunteers at all the locations where it says miles 3 and 8. They had a volunteer there. They had police at this first big turn, and they had police at the Loudon highways crossings, and then they also had volunteers at the turnaround. So this one is tough to get lost on, but just kind of keep following people. And she had signs out as well. The bike course, you can see the sprint course is part of it, but what the Olympic does is that it adds on this little lollipop where you head out and you encounter 2 Category 5 climbs. One starts right at about 4.5 miles, and the other one is coming back up over that same hill the other direction at about 13 miles. They are definitely, they're Cat 5 climbs in that they average out to be about 2.5 to 3% grade, and they each are about maybe 1 mile to 1.5 miles of climbing time. But they're very reasonable. They're very straightforward. There's nothing technical about them, especially on the descent. So you can really just go on the descents because there's not a lot of cross traffic. There's not roads turning in and out. There's not technical turns, but you can actually kind of just let it fly if you're comfortable with downhills. Now you are going to be sharing the road with traffic, so obviously keep that in mind. But the back part of the Olympic course, this loop that goes around the northern part of the course, that is very rural area, very quiet roads. The road surfaces were all pretty decent in most areas, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But unique on the Olympic course is that you'll have a water station right about mile marker 12. So just as you're coming back to do the climb the second time, right before that, there'll be a water station if you want to grab a bottle of water. And that's like right in front of a school. So if you happen to go out and drive around the course, you'll kind of see where that's going to end up. So the bike itself, there are some rough patches under the trees. So the first mile or two, maybe about the first 2 miles and last 2 miles on both courses, when you're close to the end and you're in the trees, that's where the road is a little bit rough. And it's just because it doesn't get a lot of sunlight, the water kind of damages the road. So there's kind of ruddy, and there weren't any huge potholes over the last couple of years, but always watch for that. And if it is a wet morning, watch for wet leaves or anything that can make the road slippery. When you turn off Paint Rock Road and Myers Road, and I'll show you that again, that is going to be this little guy right here. It's like a half mile. You're coming along and you turn. There's always gravel in that intersection, really fine gravel. And if you hit that really hot, you potentially will slide your wheels out from underneath you. So just kind of sit up and through that corner. There's usually a police officer there, and just kind of take it easy on that turn. Like I said, it's all rural roads. You can see from the picture, this is from the, must have been from last year, year before. I don't remember which year this was from, but anyway, you can see that the road surface is really pretty good. There are no shoulders on any of the roads, except that little jog on 72, and it's not a very wide shoulder. Very light traffic. They are not used to seeing bicycles though, so they were generally pretty good about any of the cars in the area, but they're just not used to seeing bikes. So hopefully they kind of wake up and respect everyone. That Olympic loop, when we did training rides on that loop in the past, we've seen dogs, but never heard about any on race day. But just kind of keep your eyes open that there might be some animals out there, because it is very, like I said, very rural farms and whatnot. This is the intersection. I kind of blew up, zoomed in for both the sprint and Olympic because both courses go through here. The little smiley face, there's a convenience store there. Pretty hopping place. It's definitely the local stop for everybody in the area. And it's just when you drive in, when you're first coming in to arrive at Whitestone, you actually will come in on 72 on Loudon Highway, and then you'll make this right turn onto Paint Rock Road. So that's kind of when you'll first encounter this. There were police here. There was one police officer sitting up at the one intersection. Just watch for traffic coming in from Loudon Highway. It is really pretty, like, smooth, fast road, nice and wide, and everybody kind of comes through there with some speed. So just kind of keep your head on a swivel coming through here, both directions. So you can see the sprint, you guys just kind of pass through it, turn around and come back through again. The Olympic, you're coming through, taking a right at the convenience store. You go out, you do your hill climb, your loop, your other hill climb, you come back, and then you go right again to go out and do the out and back, and then you pass back through the whole thing to head back. So you're through that intersection a couple of times, but that's probably the only place that seemed like there was an opportunity to interact. dangerously with any traffic. I mean, it can happen anywhere, but that was kind of the heads up place on this course. All right, so that's the bike course. The run course. So we've got a sprint, which is 5K. All right, it's going to be an out and back again. The only difference in the out and back is just this little part when you leave transition is slightly different, but the rest all doubles back on itself. So when you leave transition, you're actually going to go down and do a little loop that takes you down past the barn and farmhouse on the Whitestone property. You don't have to know that, just follow the signs, but just know that you're not going to head sort of back out where you came in from the bike. And that's why. It's just to get you out of the path of the returning bikes so that you're not running back into bike traffic. So you're going to make this little loop down, and then you're going to go past the chapel and then the Lion and Lamb, which is the building you always see on everything with the round porch. You go down the driveway in front of the inn and out the front exit onto Paint Rock Road. And that's what this little jog is right here. That's going around. This is across the property and around in front of Lion and Lamb, and then onto Paint Rock. And this time, so Myers Road was the road that you turned off up and down on the bike. So this time you're going to go right past that, stay on Paint Rock. And for the sprint, you simply keep following Paint Rock. It just has a bend in the road. There's not an intersection here. It just bends. Head down, turn around, come all the way back in, follow, go back up the hill in front of Lion and Lamb, past the chapel, past the parking lot, up that hill. You don't go all the way quite to the top. You get to turn off of that and into the finish line. So you don't have to do quite the same climb as you did on the bike, but it's still an uphill. Very challenging, very humbling, but again, part of what makes it fun. So the Olympic run is also, it's a 10K course. And again, it follows the sprint course. The only difference is that instead of making a U-turn partway on Paint Rock, you continue. And if you've done Whitestone 30K, you'll probably recognize some of these roads and turns. But anyway, you'll turn and go on to North Tennessee Chapel Circle. And this road, as you it climbs kind of steadily, kind of shoulders and kind of moves up. It's under the trees. Last time I was on it, it was not the best road, not the greatest road condition, but there was nobody else on it. It's just you out there running. There'll be a turnaround at the end. And then you just turn around and follow everything right straight back, just like I described on the sprint course. Again, back up through the front, onto the property, climbing all the way up and into the finish line. So the run, like I said, starts on paved paths on the grounds, and then it goes on to active roads. Water stations, don't quote me on this, but in the past we've had 3 on the sprint and 5 on the Olympic. So you basically pass one on the sprint twice, and there's one at the turnaround, and on the Olympic, you pass those as well as passing another one when you turn onto the Tennessee Chapel Circle. So you will have access to water and whatnot throughout the course, about every mile to mile and a half. The downhill start and an uphill finish on both, and you'll get a mix of sun and shade. More sun on the sprint, but you'll definitely have a mix on that terrain. So that is the run course. Post-race, there's party and awards at the finish line. So sprint awards, obviously 9:30, Olympics at 10:30. Physiolab, Kava, and the eye drop therapy IV van will be there at the finish line this year. So if you need a little stretch, Physiolab will take care of you. And very quickly, we'll just run through the Sup-er-Yak in case we have anybody on the call who's doing that, or if anybody watches it from our recording. So it starts out with a 3-mile paddle. And obviously people can use a inflatable or a hardboard sup, or they can use a kayak. 3-mile course. And on this one, I believe they start following the buoys and then they go out to a channel marker or another buoy that is set further out. And then they'll turn around and come back in for 3 miles. Again, wind current will play a factor. The entry is kind of like what we had on the swim, except it goes into just an area that's about 50 yards away from the swim entrance and exit. And you basically kind of step down in, and it's actually easy to kind of drop into a kayak or drop onto a paddle board. So it's an on-water start at 8 o'clock. It's an open channel. There will be fishermen out there for sure. And then you basically come out of the water where you started, and setup transition will be right near where the water exits. So if you're setting up for the Sup-er-Yak, you want to bring your trail running shoes and needs down to the water and set those up right where you have your boat. So when you finish paddling, you'll pull your craft out of the water, drop it there, and then you can pull on your shoes and take off onto the run. This is the trail run. I've got 2 different views of it, but if you go into the race website, all of the courses there's links on the race website. And when you go into Map My Run, you can look at it in multiple overlays. So there's ways you can look at it with a topo map, a satellite, road, etc. So I kind of pulled a couple different views so you can sort of see the elevation. These are on mostly trails for the Sup-er-Yak, and there is not a good trail map out here of this area. Even pulling what they use for the Whitestone 30K trail, like it's hard. It uses some of the same trails, but not all of them. It is mostly in the shade, except for the last mile is exposed and out in the sun. They will mark everything with paper signs and arrows. There might even be a few cones with topper arrows, but mostly how PBR marks trail runs is by using, they're about, I don't know, maybe a 4x6 card with an arrow on it that'll be stapled to a tree or signpost or whatever. So you just start looking for those. And I have not done this course, but talking to past participants, they all said it was pretty easy to follow. It's not like there's a zillion trails out there you can get lost on, but they actually said it was pretty easy to follow the route last year. And again, here's another view of it with the satellite imagery, and you can see lots of shade, except for this last mile is pretty much a loop around the property. I do recommend insect repellent, and there will be water stations, at least one. I'm not sure of the details on the water stations, and there wasn't information on the website. I wasn't able to get that confirmed, but there will be some aid stations. But if you're doing the trail run and you're kind of a thirsty person, or it's a real hot day, and you like to have a lot of water, you might consider bringing your own bottle or water bladder with you. So just a few final thoughts. This is USAT sanctioned, so results will go to USA Triathlon for rankings, and will also be for age group national qualifying. The race website does have information, lots of details. If you've done any other PBR races in the past, a lot of it is going to be looking very, very familiar. The biggest rules, okay, no phones, absolutely no headphones during the race. Doesn't matter which race you're doing, but no headphones, no phones. Wearing a helmet at all times when you touch your bike, ride your bike, untouch your bike. Make sure you have your helmet on and buckled before you touch your bike. The pre-race athlete briefing really is 15 minutes before the start. Be down there at the water and ready to go. And I didn't really highlight it earlier, but have your swim stuff with you, like ready to go. So when you go down to the briefing, rather than going back up to transition to get whatever you need, just go down, head down, be ready to start to get the briefing, and then be ready to hop in the water and go. And of course, you can hop in the water and swim a little bit if you like. Be ready to fix a flat tire. There will be a SAG vehicle out there, but it is kind of a lot of ground to cover, so you don't want to be waiting. So definitely bring your flat kit and be ready to do that. The course is definitely open for cars and boats, and there's wildlife out there. Please be supportive and friendly to all our volunteers and non-racers. The inn is filled with race participants and staff, so there probably won't be people wandering around looking at you strange while they're off to, go to the pool or play tennis or something. So, but there will be people there that aren't racing, wondering what the hell you're doing. And then they always need volunteers. So if you have a friend who's coming to watch or hang out and they want something to do, help out a little bit, we can always use some volunteers out on the course. All right, and registration is still open, so please, by all means, if you're not registered yet, it's time to do it.
Hey, can I ask a question on the yak part?
Yes.
How close to the put in the water area are we able to drive to drop the boats off?
Great question. Let me show you on. Let's see. Okay. Not a great map. Thought I had a better one. Okay, so this picture right here, this road that comes down by the barn, this you can drive all the way down onto.
Okay, I can't see the picture. I can only see your face. Maybe you're not doing the screen
sorry.
share.
You're right. I turned off the sharing. Hold on a second. Share my screen. Thank you.
No problem. I do enough Zoom to make every mistake.
Oh yeah.
Possible, so.
And at this hour of the night, yes. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so here at I'll blow it up a little bit. So this driveway that comes down, this will go down. This is the barn here, and this loop will drive around. You can drive all the way down to here, and if it's dry and they're okay with it, you can probably drive down into this area to unload.
Okay. And then there, and I believe you mentioned they will have a bit of a transition there. So whatever we need for the trail, we can leave right where somewhere near where we exit the water.
Yes, yeah. So right under the trees here, and these are actually really, really big trees. So under the trees, there's shaded areas where you can put everything. There is an option if you look at a satellite map, if you pull back from this. So right down where it says paddle, you'll notice Paint Rock Road is running down and the shoreline is running this way. Where those converge, there's actually a boat ramp. Like a legit, like you could drop in a fishing boat kind of thing. So if for some reason you wanted to put in there and paddle over to the start, you could do that, but you would still have to check in up at the top. So you could actually paddle your boat over and then walk up here. That would be an option.
Okay. Yeah, our boats aren't heavy. They're both probably 25 pounds or so. So that from the barn to the start looks like a reasonable carry. So
yeah, I mean, we're probably talking 150 feet at most. And if there's anybody down there, obviously, get a hand. But yeah, if it's dry, they'll let you drive into this area here.
And then we just need to go back and park and then go up to the triathlon transition area to check in.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds very straightforward. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I wish we had some details on the course. I really don't, but to get a 3-mile paddle, they keep it as simple as possible. So my guess is that they will just drop a buoy out at the end and be like, here, go down there and turn at that buoy. Come on back.
Simple is good. As I get older, kayaking takes precedence over swimming these days. So simple is good. Very
good. And it's in that section of water, I do remember when we scouted it and we were swimming from the other area, you could actually see I don't know what navigates through here. I don't know if barges actually go through, but there are channel markers. And if you look at some of the maps, you can see how the channel is actually dug out. So it is navigable, but we tended, all our swimming and everything that we did for the triathlon at least was kind of in the shallower area on the side. And you kind of got it into the little bit into the channel area, but not too much. It's so wide and through here. So.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And if you have any other questions about this, about the Sup-er-Yak in particular, simply just email the race director, Muna, and she'll be happy to answer anything. But that's everything that I understand as of today, and things may change, obviously, going up to race day. But I know the trail that's been pretty well established, and they liked the new venue yesterday. It was a lot easier than what we used to have to do to go down the really steep hill to the water entrance. Like people didn't want to drive their cars up and down it. So you're in a much better spot this year.
As far as the trails, is there any data anywhere on what the elevation changes are on the trail run?
I believe I don't think I put it in my presentation, but I know on the course information, let's just pull this up here. So she did it in map my ride from At My Run, which I'm going to pull up right now. Let's see if it has an elevation map. It does have an elevation map, but I don't know if it's actually how good it is. So I'm going to share this here. So this is showing the trail map. And it shows an elevation gain of 552 feet. But I don't know how accurate that is. But probably within a bit.
I mean, it's reasonable. I mean, it's going to be, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
when we get there, we're going to get through it one way or the other, but it's just trying to get a feel for.
Yeah, and that's why I pulled up, you can look at it from a terrain standpoint, you can kind of do some guesstimating, but I don't think this is the true trail routing. If you search for the Whitestone 30K trail race, the 2023 sign up page for it has a map of the trails. And like I said, it uses some of them for this race, but not all of them.
Okay.
So it'll give you at least a feel for what it's like. And I think there's a couple sections where you do have to kind of go up and over. So it's an adventure.
Yeah, that's the intent. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's great. Great information. Appreciate you doing this overview this evening. That's really,
You're welcome.
really
You're
great to
welcome.
have this. So usually it's a whole bunch of questions 10 minutes before the race. So it's
Exactly.
nice to have this time to get a feel for.
Yeah,
what
the only tricky part is sometimes people is like they'll make a change, a couple days before the race, or gosh, there's always kind of things that come up, and then it's like, but we heard that, and it's like, yes, I know. So my disclaimer, it can change at any time.
Yeah.
All right.
Any weather issues? Is there if bad weather comes in, would there be delays, or what's the
Yes.
criteria to cancel if something nasty blows through? Or
Sure. Their standard weather policy is that if there is active lightning, they will delay the start until, that has passed. And usually they wait, 15 or 20 minutes, so seeing lightning the last time. They'll do that a couple of times, and they'll get to a time where they have to say, okay, we have to cancel this leg of the competition. So in your case for the Sup-er-Yak, I don't know what her cutoff time is. It might be 8:30, it might be 9 o'clock, it might be 9:30. But my suspicion is if there was lightning that prevented you from getting on the water, they might delay further until that moved out, and they may just say, okay, we're going to cancel the paddle part and have you just do the trail run, or they're going to try to get as much of it done as possible.
right.
I'll say that. So they usually will delay up to a certain point, and then either they will cut the swim or cut the paddle and then continue if they can. And try to have as much of the event as possible. So the only other reason they might delay would be for fog, but fog and lightning are about it.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Otherwise, rain, hot, humidity, all of that, you just get to
Good to
deal
go.
with it. Snow, yeah, you're ready to go.
Yep.
It was a warm day last year, both years, but last year being cloudy and overcast for most of the morning kind of kept it at bay, but it was very humid, very, very humid. So, all right, guys. Well, best of luck to you all. And again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Personal Best Racing or to me at LB Endurance. My email is lana@lbendurance.com, or you can reach to us on our website, lbendurance.com. We have just a contact us form, and be happy to answer any questions. And we will have this recording available. So if you want to hear it again, or if you know somebody that wants to access it, just let me know and we're happy to send it out.
Thank you.
All right, guys, good night, and have fun next weekend.